In just the past 2 months, the price of beef at Costco has nearly doubled. Not in a year, but in only 60 days, food prices have shocked American shoppers. And this is only the beginning. Starting September 1st, a wave of Costco food items could jump in price all at once, driven by a perfect storm of factors. New import tariffs, droughts in major producing states, rising operating costs, and most importantly, sudden disruptions in the supply chain. If you have ever seen food prices spike and never return to normal, you already know what comes next. This video will show you exactly which items you need to stock up on right now before prices skyrocket or quality quietly slips. This is not an empty warning. It is a clear signal for those who want to be prepared. Do not get caught off guard. Watch until the end because even your Costco membership will not save you money in the coming month. Number 1. Kirkland Signature Salted Butter. In just 3 years, the price of a 4-pound pack of Kirkland salted butter at Costco has climbed from $9.99 to $12.99. At first glance, that may look like just a couple extra dollars, but it is a 30% increase. You cannot ignore that when this is something you buy over and over throughout the year. Butter is not a luxury you splurge on once in a while. It shows up in fried dishes, baked goods, and even on your morning toast. For seniors, butter is a habit. For home cooks, butter is a foundation. And for people paying attention, butter is the first warning sign that something bigger is shifting quietly. Remember back in 2020, when people rushed to Costco out of fear of shortages, butter was still under $10, then sometimes dropping to $8.79 during special promo weeks. Those prices are long gone now, and the real concern is what is happening behind the scenes. Costco once prided itself on sourcing butter from farms with strict quality controls, with some even coming from New Zealand, known worldwide for high-quality dairy. But New Zealand just went through a record-breaking drought, and global dairy exports are shrinking. Meanwhile, the cost of shipping refrigerated goods across the Pacific has doubled since early 2023. That means not only is the US producing less, but imports are slowing down and costing more. You might be wondering, can butter really be in short supply? The answer is not completely, but prices will no longer stay still. And in order to keep retail prices looking stable, stores may be forced to shrink the package size or alter the recipe. In other words, shrinkflation and declining quality. Still not convinced? Think back to a few years ago, Kirkland Butter used to come in large 1-pound blocks, rich yellow in color with a strong aroma. Now, some say the blocks are smaller, they soften faster when left out, and the flavor is weaker. You may not have noticed, but those quiet changes are the ones that matter most. So, the question is, what will you do if you cook, often bake at home, or simply enjoy buttered toast every morning? This is an item you should stock up on now. A 4-pound pack can stay in the freezer for up to 6 months without losing quality. You do not need to buy 10 boxes, but picking up 2 or 3 packs is enough to make sure you are not paying more just because you waited a few weeks too long. Treat butter as the market's measuring stick. When the most basic staple starts climbing in price, nothing else is safe. What do you think? Have you noticed butter tastes different lately? Do you remember buying it for under $10? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you are still thinking, I will grab some later might already be too late. Number 2, Kirkland Signature Diced Tomatoes. Have you ever picked up one of those giant Kirkland cans of diced tomatoes? The 102 ounces size, over 6 pounds, is enough to make 3 batches of spaghetti, 2 pots of chili, and still have some left over for a weekend pizza sauce. In other words, it used to be one of the best value items Costco ever offered. The question is it still? Let's look at the numbers. Back in 2020, right when people were rushing to Costco to stock up on food, a can of Kirkland diced tomatoes cost $5.99. Today, $10.52. That is not a small bump. That is not a mild inflation adjustment. That is nearly a 77% increase in just 5 years. The price has nearly doubled. But the can of tomatoes is still just tomatoes. No new formula, no new packaging, no organic label, no farm-to-table marketing. Just a higher price. And when that happens to something cheap, basic, and universal, you should start asking questions. Why have tomatoes gotten so expensive? Tomatoes are mostly grown in California's Central Valley, once considered America's sauce bowl. But over the past 3 years, the region has been hit with extreme heat water shortages, rising farming costs, and many growers have cut back on tomato acreage in favor of more profitable crops. On top of that, much of the canned tomato supply in the US now comes from Mexico or from Italy for premium varieties. And since mid-2025, shipments from Mexico have faced longer inspections at the border, due to new regulations and fresh tariffs on processed food imports. Longer shipping times, higher storage costs, and the result is simple. American shoppers are paying more for the same can of tomatoes. Would Costco ever stop carrying this item? Probably not. It is one of those staples you expect to always see on the shelf. But that very familiarity makes it easy to overlook the warning signs. Think about how many meals rely on tomatoes as a base. Spaghetti needs tomatoes. Chili flat without them. Shakshuka, goulash, ratatouille, even red bean soup. Tomatoes are at the core. If you cook at home, you cannot avoid using them. The problem is, once the price goes up, it does not always come back down. Every time a staple like this rises in price and shoppers don't push back, what happens? It sets a new normal. And then other products follow. When $10.52 starts to feel normal, the next jump to $11.79 won't feel shocking anymore. That is the trap. You do not need to panic buy. You do not need to clear out a pallet. But if this is something you use regularly, and if it can sit in your pantry for a year without spoiling, why not grab a few while it is still within a reasonable price range? One last question for you. When was the last time you saw a Kirkland can of diced tomatoes for under $7? And if something this simple is slipping out of reach, can you really trust that everything else will stay put? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Not to complain, but to remind each other none of us are alone in noticing how strange things are getting. Number 3, Kirkland Signature Pure Vanilla Extract. No second guessing here. If you plan on baking this holiday season, or even if you just like to whip up banana bread pound cake or cookies for the grandkids, this is the time to grab Kirkland Vanilla, not next month, not waiting for a sale, right now. Because starting September 7th, a new tariff on vanilla imports from Madagascar kicks in 47%. Yes, not 4.7, 47%. Nearly a 50% hike on import costs. In case you didn't know, Madagascar supplies more than 70% of the world's natural vanilla. And when it comes to pure vanilla extract, there are not many alternatives. You might be thinking vanilla is just a flavoring, how much could it matter? But if you have ever read labels closely, you know the difference between pure vanilla extract and imitation vanilla. One is made by steeping real vanilla beans in alcohol for weeks. The other is made by synthesizing flavor from petroleum linen or lab-made sweet aromas. So when the cost of the real thing jumps nearly 50%, which side do you think retailers will choose? This is not just about price. It is about quality. Right now, a 16 ounces bottle of Kirkland Signature Pure Vanilla Extract sells for about $36.99 at most Costco locations. That price has held steady for over a year. But according to international food ingredient market trackers, vanilla imports from Madagascar are already climbing container by container, especially after the US and EU adjusted tariffs to clamp down on exports from developing countries. If you are assuming Costco will hold the line, just look back at eggs and olive oil. Both stayed stable through 2023, then suddenly spiked almost 20% in a single quarter, once import costs spiraled out of control. Now it is vanilla's turn. And since vanilla is often bought seasonally, retailers won't raise the price immediately. They will wait until peak holiday demand, then roll out the higher price. Check your pantry. Maybe you still have a little left. Maybe you don't feel the need just yet. But if you have to buy a new bottle at the end of September for nearly $50, would that feel right to you? And if the only option left is natural flavor, vanilla blend, or vanilla with other flavors, would you really want to change the taste of your baked goods just because you waited a couple of weeks? It may sound small. But for those who have been baking since the 90s, who know that deep, slightly smoky sweetness of real vanilla, you understand what is lost when you trade it for an imitation. Here's the truth, no one is telling you to hoard bottles. No one is saying to stock up by the case. But when a product lasts until 2027, takes almost no space, and is used sparingly by the spoonful, a $36.99 bottle has never been more worth keeping on hand. And if you're still torn between pure extract and imitation flavor, let your taste buds answer that question. Just don't wait until the shelf only has the cheap stuff left. The watered-down bottles with added alcohol and artificial flavoring. At that point, real Kirkland vanilla will only be a memory. Do you still use real vanilla in your kitchen? If so, you already know what to do. Number 4, Kirkland Signature Fully Cooked Bacon. Have you noticed that when you open a box of Kirkland fully cooked bacon these days, the slices look thinner? Not paper thin, but definitely not the same as they were back in 2022. And no, you're not imagining it. Kirkland fully cooked bacon. The go-to for thousands of families at breakfast picnics, cold sandwiches, or even as a salad topping. Used to strike the perfect balance of price, convenience, and quality. But those days of plenty for the price, no second thoughts are fading fast. The current price. Around $18.12 for a box of 48 slices. Back in early 2022, $11.49. That is nearly a 60% increase with zero official explanation from the supplier. No upgraded packaging, no added value, just higher prices and thinner slices. So what is really going on? Over the last 2 quarters, pork prices in the US have surged thanks to rising feed costs with corn and soybeans, hitting record highs in June 2025. On top of that, outbreaks at hog farms in Iowa and Missouri disrupted supply. Meanwhile, minimum wage hikes in states with processing plants have pushed labor costs higher, and as you might expect, products with multiple processing steps, like fully cooked bacon, are the first casualties of compounded inflation. But none of this is explained to consumers. Instead, all they see is that every time they stop by Costco, the price has ticked up another few cents. And one day they finally ask themselves, why is this box of bacon almost twice as expensive as before? Some shrug it off. Some switch to raw bacon and fry it themselves. Others just accept it, saying everything is more expensive now. But that passive acceptance is exactly what lets retailers move the line. Without collective pushback, without side-by-side comparisons, the higher price quietly becomes the new normal. How much does one slice of Kirkland bacon actually weigh? You will not find that printed clearly. All you see is 48 slices and the total weight. You will not know if last year's slices were thicker than this year's, unless you have sharp eyes and a good memory. That's the danger. The changes are so small, most people don't bother to check. But after 3 boxes, 5 breakfasts, you start noticing the box empties faster. Not because you're eating more, but because there is actually less. Now you are stuck between 3 choices. Pay nearly $20 for a convenient box of bacon, knowing the price still has room to climb. Switch to raw bacon, cook it yourself, deal with the grease and the mess. Or walk away entirely settling for turkey bacon, or one of those healthier versions that, as many people say, barely tastes like bacon at all. The problem is there is no easy choice that gives you the same flavor you are used to. If you have grown accustomed to those crispy, smoky, perfectly salty slices every morning, you know this is not something you can truly replace. But if you keep accepting the new price, it will be $19.79 next time, then $21.99, and on it goes. We are not here to tell you what to do. Just know this might be the last time you pick up a box of bacon under $19. And after September, it may change even more, in weight or even in quality. Do you remember your first box of Costco bacon? Does it feel different from the one you just bought? Or have you slowly adjusted without even realizing it? Share your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes what we lose is not just money. It is the feeling of getting exactly what we once trusted. Number 5, Kirkland Signature Butter Croissants. That rich, buttery aroma, the delicate crisp of the outer shell that seemed to melt with every bite, and the soft, slightly moist center. That used to be how people described Costco's croissants. A box of 12, always waiting at the bakery section, was once a must-have in the cart of countless families. Now, it is a different story. Kirkland croissants have not disappeared from the shelves. They are still there, looking almost the same. But if you ever had them in 2018, 2019, or earlier, that feeling is no longer the same. The price moved from $5.99 to $6.99 at many warehouses. A single dollar increase, which at first glance does not seem like much. But the problem is not the price. The problem is the croissant itself. Today, the crust dries out faster if left overnight. The inside no longer has that light chewiness and tender moisture. Instead, it feels more doughy, less rich, and most notably, the buttery flavor has faded to the point of disbelief. You do not need to be a food critic to notice. Middle-aged shoppers and older customers can taste it instantly. Those who used to warm them up in the toaster and pair them with jam or cheese are now asking, what happened? That is when they start checking the ingredients, timing the bake, comparing them to imported frozen croissants. Only to face the truth, the product has changed without any announcement. Plenty of theories are floating around. Did Costco switch flour suppliers, cut back on butter to save costs? Or maybe speed up production, leaving less time for proper proofing? Whatever the reason, the buyer is the one paying the price. And once loyalty begins to waver, the Kirkland name, once a guarantee of consistent quality, no longer feels like an absolute promise. Nobody is telling you to boycott Costco croissants. But if you were someone who used to buy 2 boxes at a time to freeze, who brought them on picnics, who shared them with neighbors, because they were better than the French bakery, then maybe you are already feeling that quiet sense of loss. A careful shopper does not just look at the price. They notice the changes no one talks about. You can keep buying these croissants, or you can look for alternatives at small bakeries, farmers markets, or even bake them at home. But before you decide, remember this. This used to be a treat tied to good memories, convenience, and value. And if you want to hold on to even a little piece of the old version maybe, you should grab one last box before it changes again. Have you had a Costco croissant recently? Did you still taste that buttery richness? Or do you feel the same as many others? That it just does not taste like itself anymore? Number 6, Kirkland Signature 100% Colombian Coffee is the morning ritual, the pause of calm in a spinning world. And for many middle-aged Americans, that big red can of Kirkland 100% Colombian has been their daily brew for over a decade, not because it was fancy, but because it was reliable, strong enough, never too sour, and most importantly, never too expensive. But over the past year, that stability has started to crack. A can that used to hold steady at $10.99 to $11.49 now sits at $14.79 in many Costco warehouses. The packaging looks the same, still 3 pounds, still stamped with 100% Colombian. Yet people are noticing a difference. And it is not in the look, it is in the nose and the taste. That familiar morning cup suddenly smells weaker, or sometimes has a burnt edge like it was roasted too hot. Some describe the flavor as numbing on the tongue, or short fading fast, something that never used to happen. This is not an isolated complaint. On coffee forums filled with older drinkers, negative reviews of Kirkland coffee lately are showing up more and more. So what is going on? In 2025, Colombia is dealing with erratic rainfall hurting the quality of Arabica beans, the backbone of Kirkland's Colombian coffee. On top of that, global demand for coffee has climbed post-pandemic while supply has dropped. Green coffee prices on the world market have jumped 27% compared to 2024. For roasters, that means tough choices. Blend in cheaper lots, pick different suppliers, or roast darker to mask the flaws in the beans. So yes, what you are drinking is still Colombian, but maybe not from the best harvests like before. And if you think Kirkland would never compromise on quality, remember. This is the same Kirkland that faced backlash over shrinkflation in its roasted almonds, and more recently for the clear decline in its ready-to-eat bacon. A beloved brand does not mean immunity from change. So what should you do? Stop drinking Costco coffee altogether. You do not need to go that far. But with the price now close to $15, can you have every right to demand the consistency you once trusted? If you drink it daily, one can barely last 3 weeks. That means nearly $300 a year for Kirkland coffee. Not exactly pocket change for someone on a fixed income. And if the taste is not what it used to be, is it worth it? This may be the moment to reset your standards for your coffee ritual. Some people are roasting their own beans at home. Some are switching to local roasters. Others are searching for lighter blends that bring back the balance. What about you? We cannot stop inflation. We cannot prevent supply chains from breaking, but we can choose how to respond before we are left with no choice at all. These 6 items are more than just groceries. They are habits, trust, little pieces of stability in your everyday life. Now, even that stability is shaking. And if you once believed Costco was the place that always held the line on price, take this video as a reminder, even the final stronghold is starting to shift.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.